Good evening,
Evening.
everyone, especially in Nigeria, and good afternoon or morning, wherever you are in the world, because this is the PAU alumni, and I understand that there are people from other parts of the world that have joined us. I am excited and I feel honored to be invited to speak at this forum. It's been interesting listening to the past two speakers. I learned a lot from Inyabimbola and Itayo. Your team, thank you, well done. And also I acknowledge the VC, Prof. Enase Okonedo, and my dear sister, Joy Ezigbo, who is also in the house. So I'm talking about cultural competence and how it relates to equity. What is cultural competence? In the broad perspective, it includes understanding your own cultural identity, biases, prejudices, and through an analysis of your experiences as they relate to privileges or marginalization. So that's where the equity comes in. So it's simply the ability to participate ethically and effectively in personal and professional intercultural settings. And what is equity? I mean, we've talked a lot about equity, which is the broad topic we're looking at, the quality of being fair and impartial within the context of the conversation that we're having. That becomes the end result or the product of our cultural competence. It's the cultural competence we have that we will be able to be equitable or provide equitable environments. If we don't have cultural competence, we cannot talk about equity because we will fall short in the understanding of the people that we should be fair to. Okay, so if you say that, oh, I'm culturally competent, how do you know? If you say, oh, I provide equity in my workplace, in my organization, how do you know if you're not culturally competent? And of course, I've been asked to look at not just the Nigerian setting, but the global setting. First of all, we must be able to have compassion. It's that, I'll quickly say that, because without that quality, you would not be able to, or we would not be able to put ourselves in the shoes of another person or to have empathy. We would not be able to. And therefore, we would not be able to provide a just or a fair system or be able to relate with them. Okay, let me give an example. I have, in the past recent years, spent time in the US. That's not a secret to a lot of people that know me. I've been in the US for some years. I've been going and coming, and really there were about 9 years, going and coming. But with the COVID, at the beginning of 2020, or shall I say about February, March, I was locked down in the US, and I realized that I was to spend more time here. And then I began to understand the people who live here, especially the African Americans and Nigerians in diaspora, Africans in diaspora, but I would say the African Americans in particular. And normally I would think that I'm doing well, engaging them, understanding them. But in the time that I've spent here, not just going and coming, I'm able to get into their world. I'm able to understand and have compassion. So it's not that I hated them before. No, I love them. I try as much as possible to love everyone because I believe that, God requires that we love everyone because God is love. So I keep asking God for grace to love people, not just people that are within my family or people that I fully understand. And so I began to see a dimension of God and the dimension to our operating on the earth. Operating not just in our own comfort zone, not just in our own space where we understand or we think we understand our own people. And I began to realize that many of us might be racist without knowing it. Many of us might be tribalistic. Let's bring it to the Nigerian setting, tribalism. And even before this, we're in the election season, and before this election season, I had begun to pick up on things over the years, even considering even Nigerians, and not to generalize. And I would say many of us are tribalistic, but we don't know. And therefore we are racist, but we don't know because we are not in the context of living or being among white people or Black people or Asian people, because we are not in those contexts. Because we are in our own local context, we exhibit certain behaviors without knowing. So if we were then to be exported into a larger context, into a more global or into a more diverse or into another part of the world to live or to interact with, we might fall short because we had not even passed the tribalism test. Let me put it that way. And so I had a situation where, and this happened not just once or twice. I could go to a mall to shop, to get an outfit. Probably I'm going to speak in another part of the city or in another state. Or I'm traveling back to Nigeria, and I'm always in a situation where I have to speak. If it's not every Sunday, it's in some other place. And my ministry has been more outside the four walls of the church than within the four walls of the church. And I'll be able to talk about that a little bit if there is more time. And so there's a conversation goes like, oh, okay, oh, you want this outfit? Okay, don't have your size. Can we order it for you, get it to you next week? And I'm like, no, I need it now. What do you need it for? Oh, I'm going to speak. Oh, you're a speaker? I'm like a speaker, I'm a preacher. And then conversation begins to go on from there. And then we go to, where are you from? You know, I said, I'm from here. I said, no, you have an accent. I mean, I said that jokingly. I said, okay, I'm from Nigeria, Africa. And I kind of live in both places. And then their eyes light up. I remember one guy, there was tears in his eyes, and he said, and he's African-American, and he's like, why can't we, oh, you're so lucky. Why can't they all let us go back to the motherland? He's talking about a situation where they can allow all African-Americans be shipped back to Africa, whether Nigeria, whether Kenya, because again, they don't know, they've lost their roots and they're totally Americans. But some of them don't totally fit in, and they feel they'll fit in better in a place like Nigeria, but I can't take them back with me. I can let them visit if we are close enough. But so I began to feel their pain. Before I'll brush it up, before I spend ample time with them, I'll brush off such conversations and say, look, enjoy yourself. You are here already, you know, and all that. Your forefathers brought you here. And in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, you don't want to come to Nigeria. You don't want to, maybe not that you don't want to come to Nigeria, sorry. You don't want to exchange places. Because if you wished you were never, your forefathers never came to the US, Jackpot syndrome, I can see someone say, if you wish that your forefathers never came to the US, or never exported from Africa, you don't know whether you will be living in the slums of Ajigwe. You don't know whether, and I say this inside, not to them, I don't know whether this person I am having a chat with in the mall, the shopping mall, might not be privileged like me, might not be exactly like me, but might really be living in a slum and be in a situation that is really worse than the situation that they are in, you know? And so I'll have that conversation, but they will not understand. And I would wonder why the pain, why not forgive and move on? Yes, your forefathers exported you or sold you into slavery, but let's just forget all of that. You're here now and you're privileged, but many times they don't see themselves as privileged, and they're going on and on. And from there, not just because I'm a minister, but sometimes it leads to me preaching and talking to them about the love of God and how it really maybe might not fully matter where you're from anymore or where you live. Because if you have an identity that is beyond where you live, then it makes things better. Not to make light of their situation, but because for me, I value my identity of being a child of God, a citizen of the kingdom of God, first before I'm in Nigeria, and that's my hiding place. So when things are going haywire, I remind myself that, okay, fine, I'm a Nigerian, but that's not the only place I'm from. It's comforting for me. It helps me to reset my identity and not be totally angry when I see things that are not too good. And at the same time, the things I just thank God about Nigeria, for me to know where I'm coming from, to know where I'm rooted in, and it's bliss. It totally is bliss. And so how does that bring equity? I'm able to be fair. I am able to provide for them in a better way because I understand where they're coming from. I am less judgmental about people like that, okay? Prior to the pandemic, prior to these times, prior to 3 years ago, sometimes I see on social media people cursing people from other parts of the world. Facebook, I'm not too active on Facebook because I feel the noise is too much. I like Instagram and Twitter, and even Twitter as well. When it gets too political, you just pivot out of there. And I like what Ms. Ines said earlier when she was talking about social media. I like to actually preach about social media, but that's not what that is about today. I believe it's a leveler. I believe it's a place where you can understand other people. It's a place where you can interact, even if you're the shy type or you're an introvert. It's a place where you can build your table. If nobody invites you to anything, it's a place where you build it and you invite yourself and you begin to say what you want to say and people find you there. I feel like it's such a democratic place where you can begin to put out what you have and even overcome the imposter syndrome because you share what you know and you don't know who is watching. Someone might have millions of followers and be learning something from someone who has 20 followers, or you stumble on it. You might know all that I should eat because you are in the world of wellness and health and diet. And I may not know much about that. And I'm speaking and preaching all over the world and I stumble on your handle. And I'm blessed because you are able to help me to live longer. Because if there is no wellness, if I don't learn to exercise or eat the right things, my speaking and my preaching, God forbid, around the world will be short-lived very soon. So this is just to also show that culturally, culture also, or competence also involves understanding the people and the various industries where they are. When we understand, when we have cultural intelligence, we are able to, cultural competence, we are able to be open. We're able to be fair, which is equity. We're able to have balance. Okay, a number of people have said, people who really know me, not everyone, have said, oh, you're so balanced, despite the fact that you're a pastor's wife, you've been in the church like forever. Well, not forever, but why are you so balanced? I'm balanced because I didn't know that was a word to give it until you gave me this topic. Because I love cultural competence, but I didn't know that was what it was. And that's because I seek to understand other cultures in order to know where people are coming from so that I can relate with them in what we call love. Some people say they are relating in love, but they are being racist and they are being judgmental, but they don't even know that they are being racist. They do not know they are being judgmental. Okay, you see someone with their puppy on a flight, on a plane, or someone has a dog and they're walking their dog or rocking their dog to sleep, and you're like, this one has dog. Man has not eaten, dog is, those things. Sometimes we say them jokingly, but sometimes we say them from our hearts in a judgmental way. And that's because you don't understand that person's culture. You don't understand where that person is coming from. You don't understand whether that person is childless and that puppy or that dog or that cat is giving them some form of comfort. So while they're loving that pet, you don't even know that pet is also doing something in their lives that makes them mentally sane and able to perform at work when they go to work. We don't know where each person is getting their strength from per time, at any given point in time. We do not know. Okay, so I've already gone into, I have 5 essential principles of cultural competence. And there's a model for that. Accepting and respecting differences between and within cultures. And how do you do this? You've got to understand, you've got to desire to understand. You've got to be open. You've got to be less judgmental. You've got to actually be a learner and to actually love. And if we do not open ourselves to this, we will think we are really doing good, doing well, and we are not. Okay? But it may not be for everybody. But if we are going into, if we're going to thrive in a global society, we have to let go of some of these prejudices. We let go of these prejudices by understanding, by recognizing, even if you have to pray about it, okay? If you're a person of faith and very religious, it might take praying about it, that Lord, search my heart and show me if there are any hidden racist or tribalistic things, because we may not know, like you said earlier on, like until a situation of get your PVC, go and vote and all of that shows up, some of us may not actually know that we have it hidden in there. And so it's sometimes difficult for us to live in other parts of the world. And let me tell you, it's not about Japa or no Japa, like Nigerians will say. It's about, if you're working for a multicultural organization, say in Nigeria or in Kenya or in an African country, okay, you're African, and then you're posted to go and live in Australia. Will you be happy or sad? First of all, you might be sad because you're like, wow, away from my comfort zone. You quickly check the language they speak. They speak English. Okay, you're happy. If it's a place like Paris, or if it's a place like where they speak something totally different, you might not be happy because you're like, how do I begin to first learn the language? So you're looking at yourself. You're looking at how you don't want to go because you're comfortable where you are. Another person may be happy and say, okay, I get to live somewhere else, maybe I'll get a residency, maybe I eventually get their citizenship and I can be a dual citizen, and all of that. You look at it, you process it differently. But first of all, you might be in shock. But then why are you then working in a multicultural organization? Or why do you seek to found or to start up or set up an international organization if you will not want to go and spend time in those parts of the world, or send staff to go spend time in those parts of the world? And they cannot go there and behave and reject the people that are in that country or in that city. One of the mistakes we make is that we go to another person's country and we are bad-mouthing them. In a place like Dubai, you cannot do that. Somebody got herself into trouble just some months ago when she was saying all kinds of things about the UAE, and she put it in her social media and she didn't know they were noting. And that landed her a year in jail, and it was very, very painful. But she was unaware of the culture that she was. She was unaware that you had come to spend the holiday here. You had come to take or learn or enjoy what they have. And at the same time, you cannot badmouth their dressing policy. You cannot badmouth their rules and their regulations. You have to understand that if you do not want their rules and regulations, then do not go there. It means that you did not read up, you did not seek to understand them before going there. It shows that you just wanted to rape them. Yes, I use that word. You just wanted to take of what they have without really loving them. It means that you don't even love that place, but you love what they have or what you can buy. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So understand the dynamics of our difference. That we are different, men and women are different, and women are different. No two people are the same. When we have cultural competence, we will generalize less. We will generalize less. We will not make fun of each other's voices, how each person speaks. Oh, she has such a tiny squeaky voice. All those things before they could fly, but no more, because these are things that give people anxiety. These are things that cause people their mental health, and we do not know. So some of us have bullied without knowing. Just low-key, just a little bit without knowing. So in our organizations, if we want to institute cultural knowledge and we're looking at things like dressing policy, we have to look at where people are coming from. If you say formal attire, every day of the week or Monday to Friday, is hijab that person's formal attire. And a jacket is your own formal attire. So if someone wears hijab, you can't say, oh, but if she says, this is my formal attire, then there's going to be need for a conversation, And so we have to look at our values, how we behave, our attitudes to diversity, so that our organizations can work better, so that there can be healing. We heal faster when we understand where people are coming from. Even in marriages, and talking about even dealing with the opposite sex, men need to learn they need to be culturally competent about how women are. Women need to be culturally competent about how men are. I'm not a man, but I can seek to understand, so that I can meet them or meet him halfway and understand why he is thinking this way. And he needs to understand why I am thinking this way. We need to learn things that like people's personalities, the personality types, introvert, extrovert, and what we value. Some value physical gifts. Some value words of affirmation. If you send me a text and you say, hey, you did well, that's what I would like maybe as a gift. So in wrapping up, I would just use quickly a case study. What led me into the Real Woman Foundation and into the Real Woman International. Real Woman Foundation came from, and I'll say this in 2 minutes, came from many years ago, about, let me say 23 years ago, and this is separate from our church. My heart cry was, why are these girls on the streets, prostitutes, selling their bodies? I drive past or walk past, and I keep thinking, this is someone's daughter, this is someone's niece. Why would she be doing this? I knew I can't just calm down and start talking to them. But as I shared one day with someone, the person found out that there was a brothel not too far from us. I went into that brothel, casually dressed in jeans and all that, on one sunny afternoon like that, because I wanted to strike a conversation with anybody I found there. And they lived in this face me, I face you, bungalows. We know how they are in Nigeria. And the hallway is there, and at the very end, you have the conveniences. And as I stood in the hallway, just at the entrance, there was a girl that came out, and I began to talk to her. I lied, but it is the truth in a sense. I'm looking for my sister. And she said, okay, is she fair? Is she tall? She was trying to describe someone that looks like me. And when we could not go any further, I said, okay, actually, I'm not looking for anybody in particular, but maybe I came for you. And I began to talk to her like I was toasting her. What are you doing here? You're beautiful, and all of that. She frowned her face, but eventually she softened up, leaned against the wall that was next to her, the door of her room. And there was this girl passing. She had a towel and her bucket as she was going to the convenience. And I remember what she said. She said, Sandra, now born again? And Sandra said, no, now my sister. That girl quickly curtsied and greeted me like she would have had my head that day. And I said, Sandra, God bless you. She let me into her room that day. I was able to lead her to Christ, but not only that, she became my first friend in that place. The rest is history as I go in from time to time, giving her things to sustain herself so that she will not go out and continue to befriend with all her other people. They are talking to them. And a few years down the line, I was able to set up a shelter, which is in Magodo, Nigeria today, a shelter for girls like that and an orphanage. What was I doing without knowing? I was trying to get into their world. I have not been a prostitute before. If I have, I would say, in fact, the story would be sweeter. But my heart was taken to them, and I learned a lot in their history: broken home, rape, abuse. Very common to have uncles sleep with them and not be able to tell their parents because this uncle has been in their parents' life before they were born. All those kind of stigmas, all those kind of things. It was a learning curve for me, literally becoming a social worker, living my architecture, and literally going into world of people. When you don't know where people are coming from, you have no right to judge them. When you have not walked in their shoes, we have no right to judge them. There's a saying that says that if someone's mother was killed by a tiger, you cannot say, oh, you can say, I am so sorry this happened, but you cannot say, oh, I'm sorry, I understand. You do not understand because your mother was not killed by a tiger. Your mom might be late or passed on, but was she killed by a tiger? So cultural competence in a nutshell, and with this last words, is to understand, seek to understand, and it will help us globally. It will help us to be able to live comfortably. If you are posted to go and live in the ends of the earth for 3 months or for 1 year, you will be happier there. You'll be able to integrate, and then you return to your home country loaded. It will be like you've been to a university without going to a university. Lastly, and on my last slide, I say thank you for listening. Institutionalizing cultural competence is a reflection of our humanity, a fruit of love, and a byproduct of being considerate and accommodating. Thank you for accommodating me going past the time, and thank you for listening. God bless you all. Thank you.